afternoon, students. As requested by one of my students, Vartika Mehta, I'm here to present my assessment of the present condition, especially for hospitality and tourism industry in India and across the world. This request was made on Thursday, and I had said I'll do some research first. So I went to a number of sites like WTO, WHO, WTTC, World Travel and Tourism Council, IATA, IATO. I gathered crucial information from all these sites, and it helped me make up my mind as to what I should inform my student. So the first thing is I would present my summary opinion first, so that those who are impatient, who don't have patience to watch a long video or listen to a long explanation and analysis, my summary conclusion opinion is that the whole world wants to move ahead. Life with livelihood, that is the theme which is resonating across the world. And just today, in the briefing of WHO, the chief said that we all want it to get over, but it's not over, and no one knows when it will get over. The wait for vaccine prolongs. But I read two important pieces of news in Times of India today. Very minute size news, but very crucial news. The first news was from America. They have developed a medicine for treatment of COVID-19. I think it is called Remdesivir or Remdesivir, something like that. I'm not sure. The price of Remdesivir is approximately $3,200, out of which the insurance companies will pay $520 or something close to that amount, and the patient would be paying around $2,700. So $3,200 in Indian currency is 2.5 lakh rupees. Now that, for most of us in India, is a big amount. And even though the cure seems to be there, it's unaffordable right now. The other news came from China. China has ordered the trial of a new vaccine only for its army personnel. The price was not disclosed. Since China is not a normal, ordinary country, it is a communist country. They have their own political philosophies, their own way of governance. So these two news gives me confidence, gives me the courage to tell my students that the treatment may not be very far away. The vaccine may not be very far away. And I just happened to watch an ad of Kerala Tourism on BBC Corporation today, BBC News today. It was very emotional ad, and I would request you to search that ad on YouTube and watch it. It says something like, "We'll go back." to traveling once again. Let me share with you my inputs from the site of WTTC, World Travel Tourism Corporation. It's an association of private operators, operators of hotels, airlines, cruise lines, and many other players of tourism. And I was very surprised to see a person from Airbnb. Now Airbnb stands for Air Bed and Breakfast. It's a new concept in hoteliering. Something like homestay, something like bed and breakfast hotels of the bygone era. Now people can list their unused property in a city which is a popular tourist destination for being let out like a hotel room on the website of Airbnb. And in a very short span of time, Airbnb has become a big threat, a big competition to hotel business. But Airbnb also is there on WTTC, so which means it is not a competition, it is an evolution of hotel business. It is an expansion of hotel business. Like I know from my experience of tourism in India that we are still running short of hotel rooms. We don't have enough quality hotel rooms for all the tourists who visit India, and therefore Airbnb can be called as what we call as supplementary accommodation. They complement the existing hotel infrastructure, the strength of hotel rooms in a particular destination and a particular country. Okay, a long lecture on WTTC and Airbnb. I'm sorry if I bored you. WTTC has made 3 projections: best case scenario, normal case scenario, and worst case scenario. You can check their site, you'll find it yourself. I don't want to explain it too much. What I gathered from these projections was that there will be job losses. IATA has divided this whole world into 3 zones for air traffic regulations. The 3 zones are Americas, North America as well as South Latin America. Then Europe and Africa is second zone, and Asia Pacific is the third zone. So according to research of WTTC, the maximum job loss is going to occur in Asia Pacific region. Close to 55 million people will lose jobs if the worst case scenario unfolds. So that is the bad news, that is the fear projected by WTTC. But I would like to educate my students that WTTC is an organization of profit-making organizations, and one of their motives of making an association is to lobby with the government for policies that are favorable to them, that are suitable to them. And it will not surprise me if some of these projections are exaggerated in order to demand extra concessions from the government. I'm not criticizing it, I'm just stating the truth, which I believe to be true. Okay. Apart from that, I receive newsletters from PMO and Ministry of Railway and Ministry of Commerce. I did not ask for it. In 2012 or 13, after demonetization, all the government organizations were asked to launch a digital transactions literacy campaign And my principal gave this assignment to me, and I had to do a lot of researching, a lot of learning. We invited experts from the industry, and we had a workshop in the college about the various methods of digital transactions. So since I had to register myself on one of the portals of the government, and ever since I have been getting these newsletters off and on. So the newsletter from Ministry of Commerce has a piece of information which says that the freight in railway, freight is that goods which is carried by railway across our country. The amount of carriage of freight by Indian Railways has reached to the level of 91% of the level in the same period last year, which is before COVID outbreak. So which means we are quite close to our capacity. But in the same newsletter, there are apprehensions that the economy may contract by 6%, which may result in job losses. So I cannot just tell you that all is well, all is well. All is not well. I am also aware of another factor, that this could be the beginning of a big recession, just like 2008, like 1930s. Depression means when the demand falls, there is no business, and if there is no business, there is no buying, then companies shut down. If companies shut down, people lose their jobs, and there is a general poverty across the country, across the world. This is the necessary price we all have to pay for the phenomenon called globalization. The whole world has become a global village, and I'm saying this with all responsibility. I know we are in a confrontation with China right now. China has killed our soldiers ruthlessly, mercilessly, and I would not like to sound flippant, irresponsible, careless, heartless, insensitive to the threats that our soldiers are exposed to right now at India-China border. But the fact remains that we are linked to the global economy, and there is something called butterfly effect. Butterfly effect implies, it means that a minor event in one part of the world can lead to a major catastrophe in another part of the world very far from that place. Events link to each other, the results multiply, and as a result, the consequences are highly unpredictable and disproportionate to the input value of the crisis. So, coming back to the prognosis of future, all is not well, but all is not lost either. Now, I am not an expert on all this, and whatever I am talking about is a result of my personal learning for the last 25-26 years. And this learning started in my first company, where I started my career as a management trainee, Sterling Holiday Resorts. And my first boss, I'm so grateful to him, Mr. Rajesh Naik. He, let me tell my audience that he is a product of OCLD, the Oberoi Center of Learning and Development, the best hotel school in India, in my opinion. So he was an OCLD product, he is an OCLD product, and Mr. Naik right now is with Reliance Industries Limited. That reminds me that Facebook has purchased about 10% of Reliance Jio last month. That's a huge amount of money which Facebook has invested in Reliance Jio, India as a country. And now Reliance has become the most valuable company of India, and the market capitalization has crossed 11 lakh crore rupees. Congratulations, Reliance. So my first boss, Mr. Rajesh Naik, who is with RIL now, he told me about a book called Future Shock. Future Shock is by a writer, Mr. Alvin Toffler. He is no more. Mr. Toffler is no more. Mr. Toffler wrote 3 books in 30 years. The first book came in 1970, second in 1980, and third in 1989. So he took about 10 years to write each of his books. And what are these books about? These books are about a subject called futurology. Futurology. Yes, you heard it right. The knowledge of future. Don't be surprised. Mathematics has a branch called probability, which can be used to predict the outcome of events. Now, I'm not a student of futurology. I have no connection with it. But I'm just going to share my learning from Future Shock. Future Shock said that this world is changing. We all know that. But we do not realize that the rate of change is accelerating, which means things are changing faster and faster and faster. Now, if something changes in your environment, what happens to you? Obviously, you have to also change. You have to adapt to that new reality, to the new circumstances. If you don't change, you'll be finished. Do we like changing? The answer is no. Nobody likes to change. We all have our comfort zones and we want to live in that comfort zone. But change is the only constant, and therefore nobody is spared that agony of change. And when the rate of change accelerates, it means our adaptation also has to change at a faster pace. This capacity for change, if it is not developed in us, then one day a point will come where we just wouldn't want to change. We'll refuse to change. In other words, we are setting up ourselves to suicide. Maybe a slow suicide, but suicide nevertheless. And this phenomenon is called future shock, when people do not want to change because the change is so fast. And I would like to just talk about the third book called Power Shift, the last book. Power Shift talked about economics, and it said that the 3 sectors of the economy, agriculture, manufacturing or industry, and service, they will evolve. Manufacturing pollutes. Manufacturing exploits resources. Manufacturing releases harmful substances that damage the ecology, and the ozone layer depletion students are taught in school in class 9, class 10. Ozone layer depletion can cause cancer, skin cancer, and therefore the threat is real and is there right in front of your eyes. So power shift predicts that manufacturing is not sustainable forever. Burning of fossil fuel is not sustainable forever. And therefore, the future belongs to an economy where agriculture and service, supported by information technology, will provide the maximum amount of employment to most people. Be happy, you are in hotel, hospitality, it is service industry, and therefore we will continue to exist. The threat is over manufacturing. You know that all the medicine of the world today is manufactured by just two countries in the world, China and India. The most advanced countries in the world are not producing it because somehow their manufacturing is not capable of producing it at the price point which China and India can. Now I will not drag this discussion any further. Some of you might be losing your patience. So let me share my final piece of advice to you. What should you do? My answer is trust your leader, follow your leader. Who are your leaders? Your first leaders are your parents. Your second leaders are your teachers. And your third leaders are your government political leaders. And everybody who is in a position of responsibility to take decisions is your leader. Your college principal is your leader. NCHM CEO is your leader. The tourism minister is your leader. Please trust your leader. Let me explain why. And this is what I really want you to understand. This is the most important piece of learning which I want my student to take. What is leadership? Most of us criticize leaders, right? We call politicians corrupt. But how many of us are willing to take the responsibility? People who are qualified, people who are educated, who are capable, are they willing to dirty their hands, dirty their clothes, and join the work of governance? We have an example in our country, and I respect that gentleman a lot, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal. Mr. Kejriwal is an IITian from IIT Kharagpur. If for nothing else, he deserves our respect, just because he is one of the most brilliant brains of our country. Number two, Mr. Kejriwal is also an IAS officer. Okay, IRS, I know IRS, not IAS. But he is and he was an IRS officer. This gentleman has taken the lead in joining politics and serving his motherland, his country. And I admire his courage. He is not stupid. He knows the history of this world. He knows that it is impossible to change this world overnight. He knows that everybody, whoever comes into leadership role, will be criticized by somebody. At least one person will criticize him and will tell him how wrong he is. On YouTube, you watch any video, you will, even the best of videos, you will see some people have pressed dislike button. That is the world. Leaders are doing the hardest work, the riskiest work, and they deserve our respect. So till you become a leader yourself, until then, my advice to you is, you trust your leader and you follow your leader. And don't forget, your first leaders are your parents. Please keep all the channels of communication to your parents open. Talk to them, ask questions. Your trust on the teacher is very touching. But the best advice, believe me, only your parents will give. My best advice has always come from my mother and my father. The best decisions of my life has always come from my parents. And with that, I would like to pay my respect to all my leaders, my parents, and thank you all for watching this video. It's a very long one, I'm sorry, but I had to say the complete thing. So that's all. Have a nice day.